All over the country, thousands of old buildings lie forgotten and neglected, often tangled up with red tape and development restrictions. Many of these properties are steeped in history and are of outstanding architectural interest. In this series, you're going to see buildings that no other sane developer would touch with a barge pole. Windmills, follies, gatehouses and churches. I'm passionate about our architectural heritage and I want to help breathe new life into these buildings and make them useful again. Getting planning though can be really tricky.
I can't think of a good reason why this house should not have an extension.
You've got to understand the process, the politics.
The whole business has to be something you enjoy and it's a way of life.
Luckily, up and down the country, people are buying these forgotten gems. These stubborn romantics all share one dream. They want to create a home which is totally unique.
I like the softened corners, the arches, the little tunnels.
I want this to be like a secret garden.
But their labours of love can come at a huge personal price, both financially...
We're not close to running out of money, we have run out of money.
...and emotionally.
It nearly tore us apart.
When you take on a listed building, you're taking on a responsibility.
You've got to listen to the people, you know. You can't just make exactly what you want.
I hope I can bring my vision and expertise to help these restoration warriors realise their dreams.
Just didn't want to live in a normal terrace house again.
A heritage house with all modern day facilities, but crucially with its structural soul intact. Celebrating the past, yes, but inventing a new future for these architectural treasures in the 21st century. I've come to Anglesey in Wales. Clive Bolton and his family have bought this 19th century Grade 2 listed windmill for £75,000. Built in 1833, they dream of converting it into a weekend getaway and possible place to retire.
We'd been going to Anglesey for at least 2 years before we spotted the windmill. I'm sure there'll be plenty of challenges along the way, and overcoming challenges is very therapeutic.
Clive's desperate to get the project completed as quickly as possible because his wife Jane has been unwell with cancer and is recovering from a major operation. Their plan is for her to relax and recuperate here, and I'm looking forward to meeting her soon once she's feeling better.
I mean, this is one of the things that is keeping us going. We've got this to look forward to. This is our pension, so the quicker we turn it round, the quicker I can retire. Not.
Clive is an electrical and mechanical engineer from Manchester and runs his own business. His budget to do the windmill up is £90,000, and he's doing much of the work himself, hiring contractors as and when needed, while commuting up and down the M56 to Anglesey.
Well, you've got the most fantastic, dramatic building here in a brilliant location. You know, high ground, really exposed, unbelievably windy. The biggest mistake people can make is forgetting that it's a windmill. I know that sounds stupid, but sometimes people, when they're doing barn conversions, forget that they're dealing with a barn. If you try to make this too much into a house, it's going to lose all the fantastic qualities it's got. You've got to remember what this building is, a mad, bonkers windmill.
Clive's already got an architect and plans in place, so I'll be uncovering some of this building's history and helping to iron out any unforeseen problems. Its footprint is 540 square feet over 4 stories, with a capped roof. Classic in design, the dust floor is where the grinding process begins, and the bin floor is where the grain was stored for milling. The first floor housed the millstones that ground the wheat, oats and barley, and the ground floor was where the ground flour was bagged up.
Superb location.
Yeah, an unusual building to make into a house though, mate. What made you go for it?
To be honest with you, my wife and I are big fans of Jonathan Creek. And
right.
Seeing Jonathan Creek in the windmill,
yeah.
And it was just bought on a whim. I was just looking in estate agents for something rural, and this came up.
But did you not even call the missus and say, I've seen something, come and have a look at it and we'll make a decision?
No.
Brilliant!
Because I knew the resistance. I mean, she's in love with the place now anyway. But...
Brave man, I tell you. So what plans have you got for it? What do you want to do with it?
Well, initially it was going to be a holiday flat, but now I've fallen in love with the place that eventually, when it is developed, my wife and I will probably move into it and run the rest of the holiday flat business from here.
Because you've got a few outbuildings outside, haven't you?
That's right.
So you're going to convert those into holiday lets?
That's right. That's all part of the development.
Right. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So this will be your main house, holiday let outside.
Run those from there.
And you're going to be the mad bloke living in the windmill from now on.
Yeah. With fantastic views.
Other than propelling ships at sea, wind power was largely unharnessed until the 7th century, when the Persians invented the windmill. However, without modern communication systems, it took another 500 years to catch on in Europe. And a bit like Chinese whispers, by then they looked entirely different. Known as the Granary of Wales, Anglesey is an exposed island off the northern coast of the country. Its flat and open landscape, coupled with strong winds sweeping in from the Irish Sea, made it the perfect place for windmills and stiff hairspray. Clive's windmill hasn't been operational for over 80 years, so just the structural stone tower remains.
You've got the most unbelievable views up here, haven't you? You can see for miles.
Well, you've got Snowdonia in the background.
God, and you've got the sea, what, over in that direction there, is it?
That's Rossniger.
Oh, man, look at that. That's to be one of the best living rooms in Britain.
Clive plans to restore the windmill roof, extending upwards and adding a 4th floor to the building. The roof is made from lap timbers, and its construction is similar to an upside-down boat hull. The traditional windmill roofs were designed to be aerodynamic, capitalising on the driving power of the wind. But sadly for me, the roof won't be quite as it was around 80 years ago. Clive's not going to replace the sails because of the cost of construction and maintenance, but he's got some great ideas in mind. He plans to replace the original floors, dividing the mill into 4 stories. Kitchen, living and dining area on the ground floor, guest bedroom and bathroom on the 1st floor, master bedroom and ensuite on the 2nd floor, and then adding a floor to create the living room cum viewing deck in the roof.
I really want to have a look at Clive's plans, to be honest, because you've got a spiral staircase from ground to 2nd floor, and then he's looking at another separate staircase somewhere else to get to the living room. Now, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. On a building that's got such a small footprint, you want to maximise the usable space. So I need to look at the plans and see if I can reconfigure that staircase in a different way to maximise the space that he's got on the top floor.
This mill wasn't built as a home, and these are the very first of many challenges Clive will face if he's going to adapt this industrial building for life in the 21st century. It's taken nearly 3 years to get everything in place. Just getting planning permission alone from the local council and Welsh Heritage Cadw has been a headache. But finally the project is underway. The roof has to be replaced, but Clive's real problem will be to source new 14 by 12 oak beams for the 2nd floor.
I think these beams are going to be a problem to us. Looks like we've got wet rock.
I mean, it's obviously in a bit of a state, look at that. No, it's not. It's shot.
These rotten beams present both practical and logistical problems.
You don't want to take that out.
Well, I might be faced with it.
Christ.
This one's just as bad, if not worse at the ends.
You're right. I mean, look at that.
I've been searching around the country at the moment trying to find beams of this size, but without success.
The only thing I could have come up with was a couple of lengths of oak either side. Build it right into that wall, you treat it to stop the rot spreading, and you just brace it with new timbers either side. Bolt it through. That'll even give it a bit of lateral restraint so it won't twist when you build a new balcony on the outside.
Maybe that's the answer.
This building, it's beautiful because it's got fantastic pieces of oak timber in there. If you take those out, you lose the heart of the building. And I think when you restore it, to do it properly, you need to challenge yourself by saying, I'm not going to take the easy option out. I'm going to keep that character, keep that timber, and somehow make the building work.
With the old roof removed, I've pointed Clive in the direction of a reclamation yard. His priority now is to source some oak and splice sections onto the existing rotten beams to save them.
12 inches, 300. In what condition is that in?
I think it's in fairly good condition.
Okay.
Windmills made millers wealthy men, but peasants also had much cause to celebrate their invention. Supplying barley, oats and flour, they were a kind of supermarket of their day for the poor, who mostly ate porridge and bread. Before windmills, peasants used to spend 2 hours daily hand grinding flour. Now farmers could hang out at their local windmill for a good old natter. At its agricultural peak, there were nearly 50 windmills on Anglesey, each one vital to the village economy. Tower mills like this one were made of local brick or stone. European in design, only the cap and sails rotate to face the wind, making them more efficient. As they were built to last, many survived and are now being restored. So I'm taking Clive to a completed one nearby, in the hope that it will give us both some inspiration.
Quite an impressive space.
Wow.
It's great, isn't it?
This looks bigger than our mill. Much bigger.
I think it's really important, actually, to get a sense of the scale here.
Yeah.
So as we go up through the building, you can be thinking in your mind, well, this is bigger, but that means it's got bigger bathrooms, bigger bedrooms.
Restoration demands very specific skills, and even for an experienced architect like me, good research and seeing other restored projects can spark ideas and inspire.
Which is amazing how much they've got in here, to be honest.
And how bright it is,
and
even without any lights on.
You've got that one tiny window. And actually what they've also done, they've even put glass panels over the doors, because there's no natural light getting into the staircase and the hallway and the landings. So any natural light that comes through that window is just managing to creep into that landing area.
It works.
So this, Clive, I think, is the best bit. Right, it's absolutely amazing up here.
Wow.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, this is fantastic, the way the beams are picked out.
Invigorated by our visit, it's time to go back to the plans to see what changes we can make to maximise the space available.
I think their bathrooms were much more efficient and quite small, but they still worked really well. And by making the bathroom smaller, means you get more room in the bedroom on the other side.
Yep.
So I think we should change it.
OK, I agree.
Yeah?
Yep.
Clive will now have an extra square metre to play with on this floor, and with the oak for the beams sorted, he can push on with the restoration. It's imperative to him that there are no hold-ups with this project. It's a labour of love, and with Jane recuperating from cancer, Clive can't get it finished quick enough. And while Clive cracks on with the build, I'm visiting Bangor University. For me, researching the history of a building can influence not only the restoration, but how we think about a building's future for generations to come.
Most of the windmills in the area in Anglesey were built between around 1735 to 1835. And when you think about what the landscape of Anglesey would have been like, you would have looked across the horizon and seen windmill after windmill after windmill. It would have really defined how you viewed the island. Just seeing if Clive's is in here anyway. Here it is. Now the windmill was built in 1833. So that probably makes it one of the last windmills to be built on the island. And it's called Melin Newydd, which in Welsh means new mill. There's a fantastic picture here of the windmill taken in 1929. And it's said that the building sustained serious damage in a storm and was forced to close. It says by the end of the decade, the end of the 1920s, one sail had gone and the skeletal ribs of the other three hung from a cap, which had developed a pronounced lean, so the whole top of the building was kind of tilting over because of the storm damage. I mean, it's such a shame that there was so much damage caused nearly 90 years ago now. But thankfully, Clive's bringing it back to life. There's a really beautiful drawing here of the date stone, which is over the doorway of Clive's windmill. The letter stands for Owen Jones Augustus Fuller Merrick. So I think we need to find out a lot more about him.
I love this part of architectural restoration, finding out about the people who designed, built and lived in the building, and who gave it its heart, ensuring their legacy is never forgotten.
Now, it says here that Owen Fuller Merrick inherited the Bedogan estate in 1825 from his mother and father. His father was a man named Augustus Fuller, who married the wealthy heiress Clara Merrick, and he took the Merrick name, which is really quite unusual, to be honest, for the husband to take on her name, the wife's name. The Merrick family estate is comprised of land and the family seat Bedogan, which is a large mansion with large grounds in Anglesey. The Merrick family were one of the largest landowners in the 19th century. Now, the Bedogan estate is still home for the Merrick family, and they're clearly a very important part of Anglesea's history and Clive's Windmill, so at some point I really want to know more about them. But to be honest, I want to get back to the build, because one of the most important parts of Clive's restoration is underway. It's amazing, that. Beautiful. Yep. Really, really beautiful. I've been up here, look at it. He's even got the lead work started going up on the ridge.
That's right.
I tell you what, Clive, they've done a cracking job on this roof here. They really have.
Despite the strong winds, this windmill should stand for another couple of 100 years.
This is fantastic, isn't it?
He's done a great job.
It's got a beautiful shape to it. I mean, that profile, that fantastic V shape, it's just beautiful, then. You've got this fantastic timber wall plate that's been built. You've strengthened the whole building up. I think we really need to decide on this floor level. You've got to make sure you're doing it to get the best view.
The first plan was to come off this floor, which is ridiculously low. I just thought, I'm not going to see a thing here. And then we put the steels in to come 8 inches off that.
I think it's far too low. I think where I am now, right on this ring beam, is the most perfect level for this roof.
I agree.
You should be chuffed a bit to this.
Oh, well, I will be when the floor goes in. And we've got a means of getting up here.
But, you know, that's a nut we've got to crack, mate.
Clive's plan to raise the floor leaves him with a big problem of how to get up there. So my job is to come up with a clever solution.
Ideally, I want to avoid putting in a really tight, dingy spiral so you squeeze your way up through the building. I want it to be something much more sweeping and generous and romantic and ambitious, really. But I think it's going to be tough to get it in. The plan of a windmill is so unique because it changes at every single centimetre that you go through the building. So at the beginning, on the ground floor, you could have a plan that was kind of that big. And because it's conical shaped and tapering up, by the time you get to the top, the plan might only be kind of that big. So what I'd like to do is put a beautiful big stair that sweeps around and up to the top floor, hugging the inside face of the outside wall of the windmill. That'd be the ideal scenario. But it's just whether we can get that curve to work and sweep round the space without taking up too much floor plate. Jane's health really isn't great at the moment, and I'm slightly worried about Clive because he's got to juggle the build, home life and his business all at the same time. So my job today to help him out is to try and get some inspiration for the staircase, because we want to get access up to that top deck without any stair dominating the bedroom beneath on the lower level. So to try and get a few ideas, we're going to a lighthouse.
Anglesea's South Stack Lighthouse was automated in the mid-1980s, and now this stunning building is open to everyone.
Wow, look at that. Circular buildings create the most dramatic architectural spaces. It's absolutely beautiful. You've got this stunning, long, sweeping staircase that hugs the side wall of the lighthouse, and twists and turns inside, and actually tapers in and follows the line of the building. Where a spiral would never look this beautiful, and it would never be this efficient. I think what's quite deceiving about this space, though, is there's no floors, there's no baths, there's no bedrooms, there's no living rooms, there's no kitchens. So trying to keep this architectural quality and not compromise on the drama of the building when it comes to turning it into a home is really difficult. What's incredibly disconcerting and quite scary about this building is when you're on the staircase, even though you're on these massive slabs of Welsh granite, they're not supported by anything. It's just cantilevered from the outside wall. So it makes you feel even more nervous, as if you're climbing up some sort of architectural cliff edge. Now, circular buildings like this are by their nature inherently strong. That's why lighthouses, military buildings and windmills are built that way, so they can withstand impact and aggressive winds. That was absolutely incredible. If they can build it on a rocky outcrop like this hundreds of years ago in a building that's got a smaller circumference than Clive's Windmill, then I'm sure I can do something special for him.
5 months after he started this restoration project, the time has finally arrived when Clive can fit his custom-made oak window frames.
Today, is a massive day. It's really exciting because the big crane's here to lift the A-frames up to the top of the windmill. This being such a tall building, and probably one of the worst days that we've had, it's going to be a tricky one, I think. Picked a nice day for it.
Well, we were like that whether to call it off, to be honest with you, if it's that windy.
At a cost of £3,000, these will finish off his new roof. But installing them is no easy matter. These windows are 46 feet above ground level.
The wind is just unbelievable. To be honest with you, the crane driver didn't want to do it. He wanted to cancel the day. But Clive's so driven. He just said, yes, it's on. We've got to do it.
I mean, it's taken 12 weeks to get these frames. I don't want them to end up on the floor after 5 minutes.
Here we go. Wait on that.
Watch the frame, watch the frame! Whoa! Whoa! No! Get out of the way, Paul!
Got hold of it! I've got it!
Bloody hell.
That's not what I call good communication. I'll have to change my trousers.
To see that spinning like that, the wind and the force in it was just unbelievable, you know? And the guys even trying to drag it, I mean, they could have taken their arm off. Lifting it up this height, in these conditions, it's like a military exercise, you know? But we did it. It looks fantastic.
With the window frame safely installed, it's time to talk stairs.
So you go up, just miss that timber.
Yeah.
You pass your steels, which is the next constraint, up another couple of steps, and then you land at that floor level.
Right.
So it's a bit like a lighthouse stair, isn't it?
That's right, that's right.
You don't have to do it,
right?
But all I'm doing is giving you another option on top of the ones that you've already got yourself to see which one you might go for.
Right. Well, it is a nice option, but there is another constraint as well.
Go on.
Is the cantilever for the
balcony.
For the balcony comes off this steelwork.
So you're going to bloody hit your head at that point there because of the steelwork coming off of the balcony.
That's right. But I like the idea.
Yeah, that's a nice idea. It doesn't work though, does it?
A cantilever is a beam supported at only one end. The beam carries the load of the balcony to the support where it's balanced out. The problem here is communication. Clive had installed a steel I didn't know about. My mistake was in not getting the most up-to-date and detailed plans from Clive.
Shit, I thought we'd cracked it and we haven't.
We could move the balcony to the other side.
Not now! Nowhere near! God!
It's time for some quick on-site decisions to sort this one out.
The steels to the balcony meant what I'd drawn was never going to work in a million years. It's quite disappointing from that point of view, but it shows that with an old building like this, you can't plan everything. You can't second guess what the build's going to do. You've just got to start it, get into it, and get on with the build. And Clive's done that, and he's making some brilliant decisions. You know, he's on time, he's on budget, and at the minute it's going really, really well. But there's still a long way to go.
Clive's time is split between running his business and home in Manchester, where he lives with his son Paul, and keeping the momentum going with restoring the windmill.
It's going to be hectic, to say the least, but I don't doubt his abilities. I'm sure if he puts his mind to it, he can do it.
After talking with Jane, Clive's decision is to go all out to finish the windmill, to realise their dream of seeing it completed. It really is a race against time.
How's things going then, Clive? Is it all right?
Yeah, we're making good progress at the moment.
That looks good.
Yeah.
And you've cut the holes in for the spiral staircase, which looks brilliant, actually.
Yeah, we've got a mock-up there, which I can just quickly run up with you.
And so you basically got this pole, put a couple of lengths of timber batten on these little brackets.
Yep.
And you're kind of just lifting them up to get the right riser height and twist it round. And the main reason for this exercise, really, is to decide where the beginning of the staircase should be and to make sure that you don't hit the sloping wall of the windmill. So does it work?
It does work. And it's critical as well whether you go clockwise or anti-clockwise. This one will be anti-clockwise because the landing at the next level then comes on the opposite side to where we want to put the ensuite.
So Clive, this is the first bedroom level, yeah?
That's right.
So it's all about the layout of this ensuite shower room, isn't it?
That's right.
Because what I wanted to do is turn the bath round so that it was up against that window there.
Yeah. If we did that, then maybe put a glazed partition with frosted glass.
So if I was like there,
Yeah.
that's bath.
You're lying in the bath.
I'm lying in the bath at that position there.
That's it.
And you've got the window there.
Yes.
But you've got a stud wall here.
Yes.
So that window's in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And you're going to put a panel of frosted glass here to kind of steal secondary light through into the ensuite.
Yes.
Spot on that.
After the error with designing the stairs, I have to say that Clive has come up with a great idea. The paddle-stepped loft ladder he's got in mind is clever and inventive.
That's perfect. It's brilliant, isn't it? The position of those ladders where you are now, you can see all the way through to that bedroom level, and it means you've got all of that as usable space.
That's right.
Perfect. Then you'll come up the staircase, up your loft ladder, then you come out, and you get that. The most spectacular view.
Magnificent.
And to see you with your glass of wine, you know, summer's night, little drink out here, you'll be a very happy man.
You can imagine it's summer now, it's just -5.
Excellent. Now, while Clive's cracking on with the build, I'm intrigued to know more about the family behind it. The Merrick ancestors are an incredibly private family, and unfortunately because of that, they don't want to be filmed. So I'm on my way to meet a local historian who I hope will tell me more about the family's connection with Anglesey and with windmills.
Dafydd Wyn William knows the family well, and I'm hoping he can throw some light on them and their estate at Bodogan.
So Dafydd, what do you know about the Merrick family?
Well, they're a very old Welsh family, and they can take their roots back to the early Middle Ages.
So just how big an estate did they have? We're not talking about a few fields here, are we?
No. There was a saying that a person could cross the island without putting his feet on other people's land, apart from the Merrick land. But during the 18th century, 3 successive generations, they married wealthy English heiresses.
Right.
So they were established in England, but prior to that, they had very little property in England, apart from a house in London, of course.
Now, I've heard rumour that there's been quite a few kind of family clashes between the big established families of Anglesey. Is that true?
Well, you could say that it was part of their entertainment, really, quarrelling about land and ownership, and there was personal friction as well. So they used to get it out of their system, quarrelling like that. It is said that 2 of the sons in London, they were engaged to 2 young women who were sisters, and then they were travelling to the marriage, and then during the journey there they more or less swapped their allegiance, and it is said that it was the girls who proposed, it was not the men's intent.
So this is a family with quite a rich, colourful history, shall we say, but they still keep themselves very, very private on the island.
Yes.
It just always amazes me how such a simple building like Clive's Windmill can, in its own small way, represent a family that have been key to the history of Anglesey for over 1,000 years. And the Merrick legacy continues, now that Clive and Jane have taken custodianship of the windmill, and the restoration is in full swing.
It's all looking really good. Plastering's been cracking on up here. Got all this painted and decorated, which is brilliant. He's even got switches for the lights, bedside lights, plug sockets fitted, which is absolutely fantastic. Now this corner here, it's an example of how we're trying to get as much light through into the rooms that we've had to add. So you've got the window letting in natural light in the outside wall there, and then that light is coming through these glass blocks and getting light in the shower room on the other side. Otherwise that space behind there would be so dark and so dingy, but stealing that secondary light makes all the difference to the new spaces we've added. It's going to look really, really good.
This project is clearly coming together, which is great. Clive's attention to detail is exemplary, but I haven't seen him for 3 months, and I know that Jane's health has been deteriorating, so I'm here to get the latest.
So Clive, Jane hasn't really been to the build at all, has she, since you started on site?
No, that's right. At the beginning of last year, she had a tumour removed. We were given the all clear. But at the back end of last year, we just had some bad news that another tumour appeared. So at the moment, she's having a really tough time of it, and she's had an operation last week. But I think the difficult time is going to come in the next 2 or 3 months, because she's going to have radiotherapy and chemotherapy, and my time on the site will probably be next to nothing. So I'm still determined that we get the project finished, so even during a convalescence she can enjoy this magnificent building. And I think this is the place for her to actually relax and get better. The motivation is the difficult part, I find, but there again, there's another motivation now, and that is to get it finished so she can enjoy it.
That's a great motivation, actually, isn't it?
That's right.
You couldn't ask for more things to push you on, to make it beautiful for her.
That's right. Well,
I'd love to see the look on her face when she turns up, I tell you.
Well, let's hope it's sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I think my task is to get the build finished, and then Jane will then get involved in all the niceties.
All the finishes and stuff like that.
That's right.
Done. When do you think Jane might be able to come and see it for the first time?
Well, we're hoping after the radiotherapy and a recovery period from that. I'm hoping early May time. But it all depends on what progress she makes. My personal time now has to be with Jane to make sure she gets healthy again. That's the main thing. So then she can get involved and come to enjoy it.
I haven't seen him for a few months, and you come back to the build and then hear some news like that Jane's not well again. You can kind of see it in his eyes. It's knocked the wind out of him, and he keeps saying that he wants to drive it forward for her now to get it finished, which is absolutely brilliant, but you can just see it's not there. I think he's probably going to leave site today and go back home, and I'd be surprised if he comes back for a couple of months. And that's the way it's got to be. Doesn't matter. You know, you can be here every day, try your hardest to control a build, but you can't control what happens in your life. You can't control, you know, something like the illness that Jane's got. And I mean, I'm gutted for him. I'm gutted for Jane. I think when the time's right, he'll be able to put the energy back into this and get it finished. And when the time's right, Jane will come back and see it. And I think that will be a great day, to be honest.
I'm keen to go back to Clive and Jane with some positive ideas about how they can incorporate the windmill's industrial past into their restoration. So today I'm visiting a restored mill to learn how theirs would have looked and worked in its heyday around 180 years ago.
Morning, Lloyd.
Morning, hi, welcome to the Windmill. How are you?
Nice
You well?
to meet you. How are you?
Okay, thank you.
You're the miller here, yeah?
I'm the miller here, yes.
On a perfect windy day like today.
On a perfect windy day like today, yes. No problem at all.
So what can you tell me about this building? It's amazing.
Well, this is the only working windmill in Wales, still surviving.
The only
We still actually work this windmill as it would have been around 1775, 76.
The machinery for this windmill is all housed within the tower, but it's no easy thing to operate. Rather than having a fantail to automatically turn the cap into the wind, Anglesea's millers prefer to persevere with the labour-intensive method of standing at ground level, pulling on an endless chain running all the way up to the large wheel at the top of the tower.
It's bloody hard work.
As the wheel revolves, the cap turns until the sails face into the wind. The sails rotate the stones that grind the grain and the grooves cut between them, coming out as wholemeal flour.
So you get it self-feeding, so the actual grain feeds this one out fast or slow. You still get the same amount of grain falling to the centre of the stone, so you get the consistency in your flour then. It's a huge machine to do a simple job, really.
What I think is fantastic is this amazing industrial building has been completely brought back to life. This 18th century structure was all about harnessing the energy from the wind. And just like today in the 21st century, you look over in the distance, you've got 21st century wind turbines doing exactly the same job.
In 1849, the Corn Laws were repealed and cheap foreign grain began entering the country. The Industrial Revolution brought more efficient steam-driven mills, which were able to process cheaper grain and produce finer flour. White bread became the national favourite, and granaries simply didn't stand a chance. In the face of such wholemeal competition, windmills could not compete. Most fell victim to the weather and too costly to repair, were simply left to rot. I last saw Clive 8 months ago, when he left the build to look after Jane. In June, I got the shocking news we'd all been dreading. Jane lost her battle with cancer. Clive was so grief-stricken, I left him to mourn with his family. 4 months on, he's ready to see me.
Clive.
Hello, George.
Good to see you.
Come in. Her condition gradually got worse, and when we had to rush her back into hospital, it was found that her condition was terminal, and they managed to stabilise her condition enough that she was home for 4 days before she passed away.
Must have been a terrible time.
Absolutely devastating. Absolutely.
How are the boys?
Just trying to cope, I suppose. Obviously difficult for them because the mum did everything for them, but it's just a difficult time for us all.
That was you were a man on the mission the last time I spoke to you, because you were adamant you were going to get it finished so she could see it, or to a certain stage so she could see it.
Yeah.
Did that manage to happen?
I told her that it was all finished and it's just ready for her to come and see it, and let's try and get there this week. But at the time she was unable to speak because she had a vocal cord that was damaged during the operation. So she just wrote me a note that said, do you mind if we leave it a few weeks until I'm well? But I knew at that time that she just wasn't going to make it. So I decided to show the photo, so technically she got to see it. But and she loved it.
I bet she was proud of you.
I think it got a bit worse after that as well. After we'd finished it. I mean, I've never spent any time up there at night. I decided to stay there myself one night, and just when it was all lit up, especially in the at the top in the lounge area. I just know that she would have loved that. But still, you'll see it, and you know she would have liked it.
What does the windmill mean to you now, do you think?
I'm still proud of what we've achieved and the way it looks. It is a very nice property, but yeah, it was a private thing, a personal thing between us, and you know, she's not got to enjoy it. Well, it's there for other people to enjoy, and she would have liked that. I won't let it go. I don't think Jane would have wanted that. And it's something that the boys can grow into, I think, and enjoy themselves. The intention long term was we're always going to move into the mill as our house, but I don't think I'll be moving in myself personally.
It's just too difficult, isn't it, I think?
Yeah.
It was a joint project for both of you, wasn't it?
That's right. That's right.
This project was always a joint dream, and though Clive can no longer see his future in the mill, the restoration is complete. Eight years ago, this windmill was a derelict shell and hadn't been functional for 80 years. Thanks to Clive, it's been transformed from an ugly blot on the landscape to a spectacularly beautiful home. And my visit gives me a chance to meet his family at last.
Is anyone in? Hello there, how are you?
Hello, George.
Good to see you. You look very dapper. Look at that, I've never seen you so smart.
Thanks for change.
I've seen all that builder's gear for ages. It looks fantastic. You've got everyone here.
Just introduce you, yeah.
Hello there.
That's Emma.
Hi, Emma.
Anthony's girlfriend.
How are you?
Paul.
Paul, nice to meet you, mate.
And Anthony.
Hi, George. Nice to meet you.
How are you, Anthony? All right?
Bad, thank you.
Good. You've done a great job. It looks brilliant.
16 months ago, the ground floor was dark, dank and claustrophobic. Now it's a modern, bright and comfortable open-plan living room and kitchen area, with all mod cons.
You must be chuffed to bits.
Well, I think the spiral works as well. It's a feature, but everything's a feature.
This building was never designed with a staircase in mind, so Clive and I spent months talking about how to fit one in.
It's critical as well whether you go clockwise or anti-clockwise.
Today, the ground floor is linked to the floors above by a bespoke spiral staircase, which maximises available living space.
Look at all the headroom you've got above you. It's fantastic. And you just clear the timber beam perfectly as well. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Throughout the building, Clive has worked hard to restore original features, like the date stone, these oak beams, and the aerodynamic roof. The second floor was once a small restricted space and a challenge for conversion. Clive and I put our heads together to create an inventive bath and bedroom design.
That's bath.
You're lying in the bath.
I'm lying in the bath at that position there.
That's it.
We gained a square metre and transformed the space. Now the bedroom is flooded with natural light and the bathroom is more efficient.
It's been a real head scratcher to fit everything in, especially with the beams and the height of the shower.
Do you know what, you can't get much tighter than that. It's not even an inch, is it?
But there's nice little nooks and crannies to it all, and it does work.
All these kind of games that we've played about stealing the light from there and getting that secondary light to go through and light the staircase up, it really works.
The spliced-in reclaimed oak looks as though it's always been there. My idea to link this floor to the top viewing deck with a spiral was a non-starter.
Shit, I thought we'd cracked it and we haven't.
Could move the balcony to the other side.
But Clive's paddle-step loft ladder does the job perfectly.
But actually now you've done it. It just looks really simple. What do you think?
Well, it wasn't simple.
It wasn't?
And another example of Clive's unique talent for design reveals itself on the top floor.
Oh my word. That is genius. Designing a coffee table that's half coffee table, half stair. It's fantastic. I'm going to nick that idea.
That's all right. I've just patented it.
Damn!
And your reward for climbing all those stairs is the top floor, with its incredible view.
So the thing I've been waiting for all year, Clive, was stepping out onto this balcony in a finished building. The view just doesn't get any better than that. It really doesn't. You've got the knack of doing something beautiful when it comes to restoration. This place just sings.
Yeah, I think it works.
When I first met Clive, he dreamed of having a drink on this balcony, and nearly 1.5 years later, we get the chance. In Jane's absence, it seems only fitting to raise a toast.
It's a shame she's not here.
I'm sure she's in spirit.
To you, for an amazing restoration project, to this building which you've brought back to life, but more importantly, to Jane.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
To Jane.
Although Clive won't be living here, his family will be using it regularly as a holiday home.
Did you think it'd ever look like this?
Yeah.
Any idea?
Not the first time we saw it.
What did you think the first time you saw it and came up?
Well, it didn't have a proper roof or a door, so I thought it needed just a little bit of work.
It's fantastic.
It's done a really good job.
While Clive concentrated on the build and cared for Jane, I focused my attentions on researching the history of this unique building.
It's a little gift, which basically is a book that captures not only the long history of this building, but its very recent history of when you've saved it. So you are really important part of this building's history now. And then this is a shot here of the original windmill.
That's remarkable. You don't realise how high the sails are.
Absolutely.
When you think that the pivot is at roof level.
This is your building and your family history, and this is for you and your family.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, George. Thank you.
This windmill was built to harness the natural elements, to provide shelter for the miller in a very hostile environment. It lay abandoned for over 80 years, desperate for someone to come along and save it. Buildings like this are often caught up in so much bureaucracy and red tape, but thankfully this one wasn't. And for Clive, it became an absolute labour of love. He was desperate to get this building finished so that Jane could move in and recuperate. Unfortunately, that never happened. But in so many ways, this building still had a healing effect. It became a focus and a drive to get Clive through one of the most difficult times you could ever possibly imagine. For 200 years, this building has been an incredibly safe haven, and I think it's going to be exactly that for Clive, his family, and many generations to come.